Hello there. Are you Nigeria, Africa, or any of the third world nations? Have you heard about cooperatives? Have you heard of a cooperative where they don't give loans, they don't do withdrawals, they don't do cash out, and they've done that for 5 years? Yes, let me introduce you to the Kabzeel cooperative and why we're different. Good evening, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the World of Place. My name is Folasiji Bomi-Daniels. I'm CEO of the Kabzeel Group. And 5 years ago, a few friends of mine and I, we gathered together to go on an investment journey together, to save money together, create an investment pot together, and no withdrawals, none whatsoever. And we started both an investment club and our cooperative. And here we are 5 years later on the eve of that journey. And we've had no withdrawals, no loans, no two times, no 3x, nothing of such. And we're here to share a little bit of the lessons from that 5 year journey. So this is a series where we're talking about secrets of the world of place, lessons from our 5 year journey. So let's start. We've recorded 2 episodes. I hope you've gotten those. We've talked about some of the lessons of how to handle savings investment. I also talked last time about our own model. And this time around, I want to go further on why our model is different and who we had it, why we decided to create a cooperative with very few or no withdrawals. Yeah. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of background story. My mom was a teacher. She passed on in 2008, and I grew up knowing my mom being a member of a cooperative and always making withdrawals from cooperatives for this project, that project. With a cooperative, she bought the land, taking loans, she started building the lands, and I loved the idea of cooperative. So as I started working, I joined cooperatives very young, as far back as 2008, but I began to see that there was something wrong with that model. In fact, right now I call it the Dawo Yawo model, which is simply contribute, borrow. And my challenge with the traditional model of cooperatives or that type of consumer cooperative is we all gather a bulk and we all dissipate that. We gather, we dissipate that. So in 10 years, 100 million or 1 billion may have passed through a cooperative, but they will really have very little to show of it by way of a collective. So I began to research when we started ours in 2020, and we decided that we wanted to see are there other different models, and we found out that they're actually the top cooperatives in the world are actually involved in agriculture, finance, retail, and we also noticed that a lot of them are actually big and massive. In fact, just Google the top 300 cooperatives, and the results will amaze and blow your mind. And we found that there is more, and that led us in our own starting of our own that we don't want to just gather money and then we draw that out. We want to create something so we have a saving spot. We have something that can create transgenerational and generational wealth. So at Kabzeel, we say hi from the world of place. So this is the world of place. Welcome to the world of place. And this is lessons from our 5 year journey. We're taking it step by step, episode 3. And this time we're talking about why our cooperative model is different. We don't do loans. We don't do, or give me, we give you a fixed interest back, or a fixed, we loan to you at 2x your contribution, because we believe by doing that, you are actually dissipating the collective effort. And a lot passes through because there's a research that says we're lifetime millionaires. A lot of value flows through us, but we don't retain all half, we retain very few of that which passes through us. So what we want to do differently is to retain this. So from scriptures, we learned the principle of Joseph, who saved for 7 years and to prevent and save the world 7 years later. So we started actually a 7 year journey. We started pre the cooperative and now a 5 year journey. So we did 2 years before and 5 years now. So what we're then launching and what we're putting out or what we're sharing is that rather than just create a system where you're a member of a cooperative and you contribute, you then collect loans for different things, you can actually gather together and begin to build for the long term. You can actually own oil fields, you can own estates, you can own things that begin to yield income. So, as a cooperative, what we look out for is instead of giving out loans and dividends, we look to create investment opportunities that give out interest and give out continual yield. And as I searched globally, I found out that there are several cooperatives like this. In fact, there is one called the Royal Friesland Campaigner. You know them more as the producers of peak milk. And when I saw that, I was blown away. They have a membership of over 25,000. They were established in 1871, and they do an annual revenue of over $12 billion. Imagine that, a cooperative. If they did not invest heavily in dairy, they would have had to be giving out loans, out loans, out loans. So that model, we just had issues with it. Another example is the Mondragon Corporation, located in Spain, established in 1956. It had over 74,000 workers as at 2022 when I checked, and an annual revenue of $16 billion. And what they do is that they had 257 companies as assets they were managing, including a university. You cannot develop those level of assets if you gather together and you just give out loans. So I began to see that there is more beyond the model that we have popularized in Africa, popularized in Nigeria, where everybody just goes and joins a cooperative and they're looking to get a cash out to meet your daily needs. We're looking instead to build. So our model is what we have now called a generational plan. So you can check out some of this. Another cooperative is the Rewe Group in Germany. They were founded in 1927. They have over 300,000 the funny thing is that the workers are the owners. So think about it. Look at ShopRite, look at Just Right, look at Jendol, look at any of the chains that are common in Nigeria. Imagine a cooperative owning an institution like that, where people working there are actually owners. That will now begin to unlock real-time capital. So what we've now recommend is that as our own cooperative, what we then do is that members invest in asset classes. So one of those asset classes that we invest in is the agriculture. So in another episode, I will go into details in our portfolio. We have diverse of them now because in the first lesson I talked about using short-term finance for long-term projects. Because we have long-term finance and people contributing towards that every month, we're able to now go for long-term projects. So we're able to secure a 50-acre property, a 54-acre property, and we've established 50 acres of oil palm with simple, very small donations. And right now that is established, and what we have discovered that by the time it begins to fruit in 2 years from now, our total expenditure, we will begin to make that in about 1 to 2 years. So it is something that can now pay out dividends consistently for the next 30 years based off of little contributions for the first 5 years. So as against people now saying, I want to get a loan from this, I want to get a loan from this. And in the future, we may now pivot and now say, now we have built a capital, we can actually now begin to give out loans because we now have an asset base. So our major challenge is that with typical cooperatives is they tend to meet daily needs, go to hand to mouth, and they don't bring people into prosperity. So one of the lessons we want to share is that we believe there needs to be an adapted model where you don't just consume, because if all you earn is consumed, then you are working yourself to penury, because inflation is just your greatest strength. You will need to earn more to even match up with inflation to be able to keep up your lifestyle. So if you don't save and invest, then you are in the peril of being run down by inflation. So that's one of the greatest lessons for this particular episode. It's going to be very short. I was just going to show our own model, and because of our own model, we have now invested in real estate. We've invested in income yielding asset classes. So with our generations plan, what we're launching from next year is to now invite people to invest 7 years to change your life. Compare our cooperative model to a typical pension plan. A typical pension plan, it work for and another very side story. I was privileged to serve in a federal parastatal for about 14 years, and when I retired voluntarily, I saw that I wanted to access some of my pensions. I looked at the pension. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what has been accumulated, and I wanted to access some. And they said I couldn't access it until I was 50. So essentially, the law has created a system that has determined what will happen to the funds that I have worked for. So with this model and what we're sharing with people is to actually be in control of your life, because a lot of people, they work and they see that their earnings are actually invested in other people. So you pay your landlord, you pay your driver, you pay the school teacher, you pay everybody, but you pay yourself last. So one of the things we recommend is create a wealth system for yourself. And you don't have to necessarily join our cooperative to do that. You can actually gather friends together. You can create a system together if you have the discipline to begin to create systems like this. So the generational plan, essentially, which will launch in January of 2025. So if you are watching this after 2025, it has launched. We'll be gathering like-minded individuals to start their own. We have done ours. We've been able to create our own asset class. I would also now want to teach others, and that's why we're sharing these lessons from our 5-year journey to now begin to save. And one of the things we want you to note, four principal things is: number one, information; number two, what investment opportunities are there, how are you going to be innovative about it, and what integrity do you carry. That's, if you want to do this yourself, you must look at your integrity, who you are, what are the things you are able to do, and then you also then begin to look at what are the what information do you have access to, what are the opportunities you have access to, essentially, and then look what's how do you bring new ideas into that space. So with us at Kabzeel, we've been innovative in that we've been able to divest from the trend, the general consumer cooperative system, into creating an investment cooperative, a cooperative with a model to essentially grow for the long term. And now we have asset classes that will begin to produce for 30 years. So our strategy is simple, like Joseph did. Set aside 20% of your income every year for the next 7 years and begin to invest that in opportunities that will grow over and over. So this is a very short episode to simply tell you that to create wealth, you need to do consistently that which others do occasionally, and you need to innovate your way out of a lifestyle of defeat. I hope this has blessed you. I'm Folasiji Bomi-Daniels, CIO of the Kabzeel Group. Tell me your comments. Tell me what you think, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.